Okay. All right, can everybody else maybe hear us?
Yes, Brian.
Leanne, thank you very much for arranging, Leanne, thank you very much for arranging this room. I know it was difficult with the shutdown. We appreciate it very much. I guess before that, I should call the meeting to order. And have people have a chance to read through the, I have it backwards on the agenda here, I think. I believe the minutes should be first. They already had a chance to review the minutes from last month's meeting.
Yes.
Any questions?
Good job.
Okay. Thank you, Leanne. Nice job on that. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes, please?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Meeting. May I get a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Okay. Then without further ado, we're going to, I'm going to hand it off to Stephen. I understand we had a dock fire today. We're all sitting on the edge of our seats to get
Just a lot of smoke.
just let us know, get an update on that. But before we do that, I hope everybody had nice holidays and a very happy new year. Leanne went away skiing and unfortunately came back with a cast, so I'm hoping her in-house time is a lot better than her skiing time. So, Steve, on the report?
Today I went over to the Maritime Center to kind of check on the de-icers. We've been pretty lucky so far with the weather. I turned on the disconnects and I turned and there was a lot of smoke. I initially thought it was a small outboard boat. I went over and saw that there was some smoke coming out of the pedestal. I ran over, shut down the electric system at the marina. Called the fire department, they came down. We determined that pedestal had corroded wires at the connections. It's nothing that, anybody could foresee unless you went in and, took them apart. It was just from seawater infiltration, probably from the storm probably last March, splashing the waters. And the pedestals, a lot of them, because we took them apart so many years, so many times, when we used to take the marinas apart, they don't really go back together very well. It's like anything else that you take apart, 40 times, it's only supposed to come apart once, go together once. The screws don't really hold with vibration, with the docks moving back and forth, the screws fall out, and the pedestals, you saw it, Howie, on your dock, one of the pedestals actually fell into the water. So this is something we knew about. We've been talking to FEMA about it to try to get some of these pedestals replaced.
So will this one need to be replaced or repaired?
Yeah, this one has to. We're gonna use it as a splice box, so it won't have any connections. It'll just be, the wires will come up into it. There'll be high press connections to put it back together, and it'll just loop out. But other than that, we had the electrician finished up a dock, replacing the one conductor that was undersized. That's done, and the electrician's going to come down tomorrow, take a look at the pedestal that we had the issue with today, use high press lugs, put them back together, and we're going to look to see how much it would be to do all the pedestals that way, to eliminate hopefully any issues moving forward if there are any other problems.
How many de-icer units are there?
Huh?
How many de-icer units are there?
I think there's like 45.
45.
Yeah, but they don't use as much power. The boats use more power than the de-icers. So in the summertime, I mean, this could potentially happen. And I think it has something to do with the temperatures, where it's really cold. I turned the power on. It got hot really quickly, and just made the situation that much worse. And probably turned it on and off last week when Mike and I were working out there. Probably just exacerbated the situation. I I was glad I was there to see it, to shut it down.
Are they a timer?
No, we're not on a timer. No,
So just when
we do
times
it,
they come on, or?
we do it completely manually.
Oh, okay.
You can put them on a thermostat, but you waste a lot of electricity. We're there all the time, so I can actually come over. If it's gonna be below 27, 26 degrees for a number of days, we may go over and turn them on. But it really has to start getting cold for it to, for the ice to really form to make a difference. Because during the day, even if it's 26 or 25 degrees, the ice isn't going to form because the sun's not going to allow it.
So they haven't been on yet this year at all?
Not really. We
Check them.
just to check them, to kind of do a couple of, work with them and try to balance the load. And we actually identified all the pedestals with different colored tape so that we can balance the load. So we can have A phase and B phase balanced out, so we're not loading up everything on the A phase and not having anything on B phase. We're trying to build a better mousetrap over there.
Great. Questions? Steve, when do you think everything will be up and running?
With the
All of
de-icers,
the ices.
they're pretty, all but ADOT. ADOT, once Mike gets back, he's out, he wasn't feeling well today, because we were gonna finish that up today. But that wouldn't work out anyways with the fire department. But we'll probably in the next day or two have them done. If need be, if it was gonna get cold, I could just go down and do it myself, but it's easier with the second person, second set of hands.
Okay. Because if this was last year.
No, I know, we
It
actually.
was 5 degrees last year, and you were out there chiseling ice.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. So
Right.
we were, last year, it took us 2 days to deploy all of the ISOs. And this year, Mike and I have just been down there, and I've been running around trying to get a lot of other things, accomplished as well, in the building and around. So once I get done, well, it's just ADOT that has to move around. We're trying to move some fingers around to have more free-flowing water, to try to make it so that we don't get any ice in those areas.
Right. Because I know the forecast is for really cold end of the month, as well as we've got exceptional high and low tides. We were fighting again last year during that cold.
Oh, yeah.
Around the 20th, I believe it was 22nd, some of that time frame, so.
No, Mike is back in tomorrow, we can wrap it up tomorrow.
Okay.
If he's not, if he's out for a couple of days, it's gonna get cold, I can just get down there and, well, if there's like a half dozen or 10 of them left.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, over the CPM project?
Gold Parkway Marine Project, we're at the same place we were at the December meeting. We are waiting to hear back from the state when we go to mediation.
So as of right now, both parties have had their individual meeting with the mediator?
They don't tell us whether they've had their meeting yet. We were told by DEP that they were planning on doing it before the holidays with them. I don't know. They told us they'd reach out to us with a date to meet, together.
It's probably a stupid question. Is anybody running point on this in terms of the DEP that?
Yeah,
pick the phone up and call DEP and say?
That's through the town council. Town
Okay.
council's handling that. She's been in contact with the abutters attorney and DEP.
Okay. Well, it'd be nice if there was a court step resolution to this, so we don't have to go through all this and be able to kick the project off. But
So the situation is the DEP will hold a meeting with both of us, both parties together? to try to-
Mediation.
So a mediator.
and enforce the rule together.
Hopefully that meeting gets resolved.
Hope so.
Okay? River dredging?
River dredging, we're planning on putting it back out to bid in March for next fall. And we're hoping that we'll get takers because there's a lot of grant money out there, and there's a lot of projects going on, and, you know, everybody's kind of busy right now.
Sure.
So if we put it out early enough, we're hoping that we'll get somebody saying, yeah, I'll take that job, because Bradley Hansworth too, you know.
Are there any contingencies when we put this out to bid, Steve, in the sense that a fair amount of this is obviously Seaport grant? Or are we putting out the bid that we'll take it our retained earnings if we have to? It's not a contingent bid?
This is, it would have to come out, it would have to be part of the grant, and it's my understanding that we believe that we'll get the extension.
Okay.
There's no promise, you know, there's nothing right there, but that's what I've been doing.
Dave?
If in April when they come back, it comes out, let's just throw out a number, $100,000 more than the grant money. I would think that in, maybe, I'm not sure when the meeting would have to be, to refund it, to do it, including $9,000, to get new
It would
money
have to be the special town meeting
in September.
in September.
And I'm sorry, this was also the one that Marshall voted on in October, I believe?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, so it's part of, it's half of it, or?
And they'd have to do
They have half.
Right.
So the state's paying half, $555,500, and the town of Marshfield and the town of Scituate are dividing $550,000 amongst the two towns.
Can you remind me, is it also about the Herring River? It does not.
No, this is just the South River, and it's just Area A,
Right.
which is out, as you come in the New Inlet.
Right.
And you make the left-hand turn, right there is what we're talking about.
And I believe there's a state law that you can't exceed a certain percentage of what the estimated cost is. So I know the last one, I think we had a total of 1.1 between the two towns, and it came to 1.5, and that was beyond the percentage. So I don't know if the $100,000 is within percentage or not. Dave,
I'm just
right?
saying,
Whatever it is, there's a certain ceiling that if bidders come above that ceiling level, that you can't negotiate.
It came in basically double what it should have been.
One bid.
Well, not quite double, you know, like
Okay,
$500,000 high.
so that's a March event theoretical, right?
That would be March, April, and then,
Okay.
that's what the plan is.
And I know there was some questions at the last meeting regarding the harbor master boat update.
Our master boat hopefully is going up to bid. We finalized the spec,
Okay.
and I believe we finalized the contract, and hopefully it'll be released in the next week. That's what we're hoping for.
And again, the target date is June 20-ish, sometime summer 20 to take delivery.
Summer 20, yes.
Okay.
Early summer 20.
Got it. Great. Anything else, Steve?
I have my capital meeting. Howie was there with me and Dave Friedman. So the town administrator approved the comprehensive dredge plan for $100,000, the pump-up boat for $80,000.
If I can interrupt, on the pump-out boat, just for the record, we anticipate getting a grant, so the actual cost is going to be,
About $25,000, right in
right,
25 or 20.
so the cost is 80, but our true cost is
Yeah, it's
25,
like
right?
$25,000 or $28,000.
Got it?
What's the budget for?
80.
80.
You budget the whole amount?
Yes, budget the whole amount. I spoke to the grant people today, and they're pretty confident that we'll get they want to keep this program going without the pump-up boats. The harbor's just going to get dirty.
The issue is how we handle this summer. right?
No, we
We still have the old pump up.
We have the old pump-out boat, and if it gets approved, because I have an enterprise fund, I can order the boat the day after town meeting approves it and take delivery, because we have retained earnings.
And they're pretty available.
Brian,
They make them right down Rhode Island.
does that mean the 80,000 is paid in 1 year, or is it amortized out?
No, it would be,
That's one.
the true cost should be 25. Worst case scenario, Steve was discussing would be 80,
Yeah.
right? That's without a grant. But everybody who is involved in the grant process feels very secure that we should get the grant. But there's no guarantees. So we're budgeting
There's no guarantee.
It's not scheduled out of
Right.
he's asking.
It should be 25 and come out of our
Single year. That's the-
One
Right, we
year.
don't follow.
That's all. It's 81 year, paid for, why not advertise it up? If it's a 10-year,
It's
it's
25,000?
not worth it?
No.
No, the 80,000.
No.
Because we're not paying the 80, we're only paying 25.
Oh, I had it for.
Right.
But even if we, like when we bought the last boat at 150, we just bought it. We didn't, it was just
It's not worth it.
not worth it to borrow.
Okay.
Okay?
And then the town administrator, I asked for new main floats in the marina. That got pushed off to next year. That was 80,000. And I asked for a replacement truck for 43,000. Town administrator didn't approve that. However, I spoke with Capital, and Capital did approve, or they gave me a blessing to replacing my truck, because we explained that we'd most likely be getting, pretty much a lock that we'll be getting the grant for the pop-up boat. So my whole capital plan is actually going to be less, even if I get the truck, because of the pop-up boat grant.
So push out the docks, I'm sorry, that to 2000 and
Till next year.
next, okay.
Yeah, 20.
But there's a lot of investment going forward in the docks.
Yeah.
That's the first phase of 4 years, is it?
Yeah, that would be the very first phase of, I think, a 4-year
Yeah,
plan.
250 a year or something,
Yeah.
250 a year.
for all the docks.
And again,
The first year would be 250 approximately.
First year, we wouldn't do for the main, so.
we wouldn't do, we'd be looking to replace the mains, because they're in such, they'll hold together, but they're in tough shape. But once the Copart Marine project is done, I would then probably go back to Seaport and ask them to replace the floats. And that would be like $1 million project, which we have to come up with $200,000 for it. So it's still less than, a quarter of what we would pay.
So David, I anticipate getting an updated FY 20 to 24 capital plan that will share with all the waterways members. That'll list year by year where things are targeted. And obviously they slide up and down, mostly down.
Right. Yeah.
But it'll give you some feel for what went. Okay?
So Capital was on board with the dredging project, pop-up boat, and the truck. I now have to present it to advisory, the same thing. And after advisory, it goes, it's just town meeting.
Well, the selectmen have to vote.
Yeah, they vote on it.
Great. Anything else, David? That's it.
That's it.
Okay.
We're kind of standardizing all the
Any questions?
soaps and paper towels, toilet papers. The marina, so I don't have 45 different types of paper towels.
Steve, remind me again, what's the timing of when invoices and all that go out?
March 1st.
For both slips and?
Slips, all invoices go out March 1st for all bills. Because for whatever reason, we were holding back the marina waterways user fees to the marina owners, not to the slip customers, but to the marina owners until fall. And I was like, "Okay, all the bills should go out now. And that way we collect all of our money in this year, so we know what we have.
So we discussed it last year. I'm sure we discussed it probably the year before, and probably when Howie was chairman, we probably discussed it. Wouldn't it be beneficial to move that date up? Because theoretically, people don't have to pay until April 1st? Or April
March
15th?
April 15th.
April 15th. So if somebody isn't taking it, they could just walk from their deposit, right,
Yeah.
forfeit it.
Lose their $400.
Does that ever happen?
Actually, when we were, 2 years ago, we had a number of people, for whatever reason, forfeit their deposits.
Did you have a problem filling the slips?
What happened
With
with
the right size boat?
Yes, we did. That's what, was what I was going, we were able to fill them, but we were putting 16-foot boats and 25-foot slips.
Would there be a benefit to moving that date forward? To February 1st, for example? Does that give you more time, or?
It would give us more
I
time.
mean, I know some of the other marinas in Scituate are now, right?
November.
Right.
I mean, it would be beneficial. I don't know if we could do it this year, it would have to be something for next year.
Right, obviously this year.
But I think we had talked about moving the dates around.
We did a couple of years ago.
I think it was last year.
We did, I know we had discussed it last year, but it was a pickup of a conversation from a couple of years, kind of like this one is now.
Right, and I
Right?
think the general consensus was that it was a tough time of year to collect money from people, big dollars right after
Yeah,
Christmas.
but
Right after Christmas and the tax
But
season.
if the invoice goes out,
you're right, the middle of tax season.
January 15th, then it's due the end of February versus being done
These are people who make
on
decisions.
April
You could
15th.
send it
in
out
tax.
until the end of February.
Or if it was February 1st, we would do March 15th.
I don't know if you guys pay attention to the weather, but for the commercial fishing guys, it's a very tough year to come up with $400.
Yeah.
And,
That's why I thought it was a year.
called the state because they thought I missed reporting for the month of March last year. I said, no, I didn't land a loss for the entire month of March.
Well, you were closed most of the time with whales and everything else.
No, it was open.
Was it?
It was the weather,
though.
they couldn't get out with the weather.
Right.
So keep that in mind too. That's kind of a tough time of year for
I can separate out,
Well, we can
separate out commercial fishermen.
Right.
That's up to you. I'm just saying, to get a $400 bill.
No, that's fine.
As long as it's more about his planning than the money, right?
Yeah, as long as I get it by July 1st, it's okay.
Yeah.
So if the commercial fisherman wanted it, even Bill sent out April 1st until,
But it just, it's tough for some of the people that.
No, I get
They're
that.
living from that. It's
So
not-
we're talking more about the slips.
Right, that's-
And the problem there, Dave, is it only gives Steve a month to scramble to find a replacement the right size.
No, I understand. I mean, if we were,
Time to assign to it.
if we were making a living in a conventional manner, it wouldn't be a big deal. You just wait for your 2 weeks to come up and you're.
So the solution could be for slip holders, we have an earlier date than moorings,
Yeah,
or commercial, non-commercial.
I don't want to
something
screw
like
up the whole thing. I'm just saying, for us, sometimes
that. It's a fair point.
February and March can be very, $400 is make or break kind of money.
So, Liam, would you put this on for new business, and next month, can we talk about looking into it for FY '20? Not this year, obviously, 19, which would give Ellen and Steve plenty of time, right, to plan for
Yeah.
doing it next year. But I'd like us to discuss it as new business and put it up for a vote amongst the committee about doing something about moving it and possibly segregating commercial and residential.
Commercial.
Recreational and commercial, right?
I mean, that's easy enough to do because we have,
You guys aren't getting
we pretty much have, commercial guys
Yeah.
segregated anyways, but, that's why you're here.
Right. Thank you for that, Dave. All righty, so, I know a couple business, you got one more thing.
I was speaking with Ellen today, and she asked me about mooring fees, slip fees.
Yep.
Rates, if anything's gonna happen this year. And I said that I know that we were gonna be talking about it either this meeting or the next meeting. I wasn't sure if it was on or not.
Yep. So that's, in our old business, our number
Okay.
one with the bullet we're gonna talk about. Okay?
All right.
All right, any questions for Steve? Audience?
Hold
Hold on, I can't see you out there.
26 Hughes Road. Can I just ask Steve why in this past month, when there were moon tides, the two trailers were sitting in Cole Parkway? One with a boat on it, one without a boat on it. Getting wet.
Keep out of over at,
you know that flood's back in there, why would you leave two trailers back in there?
They're galvanized trailers. They don't, the
They've
trailer,
got plenty of time to move them, they've got plenty of places to, they shouldn't be sitting there on the high highs.
I have a question, because I'm not familiar. Does the water get high enough to actually get to the axles and to the bearings? Oh, it does?
One outside of your office?
no, can't get that. It would have to be a time like last March to get that high. They get to, they may get to the tire, but they're not getting up into the axle and the bearing.
Why are they sitting there? I
Because-
just think that there's better places to keep them rather
Well,
than in the
one-
middle, especially when there's gonna be flooding.
The one boat is now over at the maritime, boat works getting shrink wrapped. That's the boat that was there with it.
Yeah.
Is
And
it coming back?
It's not, it's gonna get put over in the corner of the
Okay.
Maritime Center. And the other one, we were actually planning on picking up Unit 3 before Christmas and running it up to 3A to have a little bit of service work done and then have it put back in the water and then storing the trailer. So that's why.
Well, I just think that there should be more concern for that kind of equipment, especially if you're looking to replace things and whatnot, but,
Yeah.
maintenance and TLC, I think, is important to the town's equipment.
Personally,
Everyone else.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve?
Anything else?
We're good?
Yeah.
Steve, I'm sorry, one quick question. How many slips do we have that are reserved for town boats that don't produce revenue?
Well, one for the police boat, how many for the Harbor Institute? One.
No, we have 1, 2, and 3, and then we move the pump-out boat around, and we move the old boat around.
3 for the town and one for the police.
Yes.
We have a total of 4 slips
Well,
down.
And the Coast Guard?
No, well, the Coast Guard, that's part of their lease.
It's 5.
Right, so
5.
you'll see lease revenue
Fire
on our
department.
documents.
The fire department has one as well.
6
Who's
slips.
in the fire department?
It's right next, it's kind of wedged in next to Unit 2.
So there's 6 slips that don't produce revenue. Okay, I just put
Really
3.
does that stuff, right?
Rainy days.
That pays up.
So,
What's that?
That's not, couldn't hear you over here.
Fran, I was wondering about the morning,
no,
how
Freddie,
they pay.
how about, he pays.
He pays us, right?
So back on this, could you rent out these slips, all of them, including the one for the fire department, or is it wedged in with another boat?
You mean 2?
I can move stuff around, I can rent any slip. You give me 21 slips, I can rent them.
So the Coast Guard pays indirectly.
Yeah,
Right.
Really?
So it's
The
really,
police department doesn't pay.
so it's a total of 5 that are, well, worth
The
discussing.
police department,
But the police and the fire don't pay for a slip?
No.
Two worth discussing. The
I
harbor
that's
master,
why I think it's 6 slips, so.
well, the harbor master is not gonna pay for his slips,
Okay.
right?
yeah,
And you have 2 slips,
I have 3.
3 slips.
Yeah, you're 1, 2, and 3.
And then the
And
Coast
then
Guard and the fire department.
I move our workboat around, and I move.
So you have
our
3
pump-out.
slips, plus we have the one we're gonna have down at the Herring River. So,
Yeah,
so 4 boats in the water.
yes.
Okay.
But should the police and the fire, should they pay for the slips, or is it just since we're all part of the same town? We just would know. Has it come up before?
No.
Has it come up before?
I don't think it has.
The back charge that department.
Crush charge.
What's that?
Crush charge, right?
Coast Guard. Yeah, I've never brought it up.
It is a very legitimate question.
That happens all the time. That's true.
Say again?
That happens all the time where we pay direct costs for various services.
Okay,
So that could be a legitimate cost that could be charged back.
right, right.
The pump-out boat, I charge the state to house the pump-out boat.
Right, but the fire and the police have their own budgets, and that could be part of their budget.
So I'm sorry, is this new business or?
We've now moved it up to the business. So,
Well, we're still in old business.
we're in old.
We just started talking about finance.
Right, but you know what? Instead of saying, let's table this for 15 minutes and then forget it, let's just continue down this trail. I know we're violating Robert's Rules and Orders, but I think that's okay.
As long as you're not gonna vote or do anything.
Correct. But what I am going to do is ask for a volunteer for somebody to work on the number of votes that we currently have in the town. To work with Steve to understand how many votes that he has that we currently are paying insurance for that are going to be put out to auction.
Yeah, like I said,
These are savings that we're going to see, we realize.
I've just been able to secure all the titles to all the trailers that the town has under the harbor master's charge, or formerly, you know, the old Boston Whaler that's over at the Maritime Center, that's, you know, it was the old harbor master unit 3 that's up at the dump. There were no titles to the boats, no titles to the trailers. I was able to have the state police come down, like I said, and get titles for the boats and the trailers. So now those items can be sold. All of my trailers are now registered.
So,
Everyone.
and I believe we're paying
It's a nice
insurance
feeling.
on some boats that either are appearing in our bucket. It's not a lot of money, it's like $500,000, $2,000 for a boat.
Yeah.
That are appearing out of the waterways bucket that maybe shouldn't be, like recreational boats, sailboats.
Yeah.
So you're looking for a volunteer to help?
I am
right
looking
now?
yeah,
Okay.
to work on,
I'll certainly help do that, but the process really can be going back to the town to see which ones are hitting.
so I have some of the documentation, I think I might have given some to you.
I think it's easy to identify. Like, I can identify what's mine.
Okay. So I can request a bunch of documentation from our auditing department.
Yeah.
Is it, Leanne, is it John or Vito? John, Jim? On the auditor?
Joe?
Joe.
Vito.
Joe, Vito, thank you very much. To get a list of what the town's paying for insurance,
Okay.
right? And then we can work with Nancy and understand which of these are being cross-charged to the waterways. On top of it, we may find boats that we have listed that really should be put out to auction,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
From other town departments.
I don't know about the other town department.
No, what I'm saying, we're pulling insurance numbers,
Yeah.
information,
I know what I have.
okay?
How many votes are there?
I'm not sure if you said you had yes or no, you'll work with Mike on this or no?
I don't think it's that complicated. I mean, he knows the votes.
How many votes?
I don't know. I don't know the,
No, I'm talking about police, fire, we could be paying, we could be paying for boats, waterways could be paying for boats.
We are paying, it's in our financials right now.
Right,
We're getting
that are in our
charged.
financials. Which,
I'll help you identify them, track that back. You'll get me some of that
I'll pull numbers and give it to you,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
And then we can start figuring this thing out.
So, I'm sorry, to be clear, the action is that we're going to list the boats that are not, that are belong to the harbor master, and those that don't, to see where those charges should be going.
Correct.
Okay.
So once we pull the insurance information, we're able to match up with Steve and his boats and the other boats, then let's start backtracking and figure out who owns them, and if somebody doesn't, then we should, the town should be paying for this.
Right. No, right, very good.
Okay, so sorry, that was new old business. So jumping right over to old business, so financials. Well, Howie and I met with Nancy right before Christmas, and found out that the debt service that had been published back in May, that goes out to 2025,
Those copies, if we move.
These can be, sure. Let me try and handing out news.
Yeah.
I have two old already here.
You do? Okay. Yeah.
Craig has one, and that's Craig. Maybe the other one has these.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Here we go. Nope, I got it.
Not yours, is it?
Nope, I'm good, okay? the debt service that we had shared back late summer, that showed what the waterways debt service was, running out to 2025 for current, and then for projected on the dredging and the new harbor master boat that ran out to 2031. We had our costs identified, and in the numbers that Nancy provided us, which showed us the debt service, our fiscal year 2020, so starting next July 1, debt service should have dropped to 349. Instead, the new run that was provided back in mid-December, it's at 409, so it's about a $60,000 delta. And it appears that there was money that had been incorrectly allocated to the general fund that should have been allocated to waterways debt service. And we're finding out exactly what that is, so we're not just receiving a $60,000 hit, so we can understand what that cost is. So what that does is that changes our projections on the impact of retained earnings. So Nancy is doing two things. She's going to run the new debt service numbers for us, and she has to wait until the middle of January, right, Howie? Because the town is also releasing a bond, and in that bond will be some waterways activity, or there is the probability, specifically the South River dredging and the boat. Both those, or one of those two, will be in there. And obviously, that would impact our debt service start time a lot sooner. So she'll know that by the third week in January, I believe, at which point we'll get our new numbers, and then we can run them. So we know there's an additional $60,000 in debt service. There could be a little bit more, depending upon, as Stephen said earlier, the projected date is summer of 20 for the boat. So we would anticipate a prorated percentage of the debt associated with that, which is about $48,000 a year, as well as the South River Dredging project, which is about another $19,000 a year, depending upon when it started. And this is all 20 numbers. So obviously, it's not going to be the full amount on either because it would be prorated, but there would be some impact. Dave?
Question about that adjustment to debt service. She's discovering the error that was made in May.
So, I don't know all the details, so it's speculation to understand if this was a new expense that never had been allocated to us this year.
Right.
Or if it's something that goes back to
Exactly. Should we have been carrying this $50,000 to $60,000 for 3 years? And we're just revising the past financials would help us understand
Yeah,
what
so,
those last years were too.
right, so we're going to suppose to get forward backward on this one,
Yeah, yeah.
but from what I understand, they're not going to back charge the waterways department.
I'm not interested in that, I'm just trying to find out,
Well, I care about that.
are we
I
carrying?
don't want to get whacked for
Right, not whack, just
$250 million
in 17, we had a pretty good year, but in 16, we generated $130,000, but if we were carrying 60, we only would have netted $65,000, $70,000.
That is correct. So it's not going to be in 19's budget, understand, it will be in 20's,
Right.
right? So the current year we're in, the numbers are pretty fixed. They're fixed for certainly on debt service, but they're not fixed.
Well,
Obviously,
certainly
on
have some
operational
discussion
basis.
about fees and stuff, if we're having to carry another $60,000.
And this went back, this happened, what year?
So,
We're not sure.
She's discovering it.
It was before me.
no, I believe it happened on your watch. Yes, Steve, I think this was something that when it was put into, when a bond is done, there's a lot of things that go into it.
Yeah.
Right? And then the town releases it. And obviously, when it came back in and the allocation happened, it wasn't.
It just didn't get allocated to the right bin.
And I don't know whether it was 1 year, 5 years, 100 years ago. But we will have that information. We just discovered this information.
Yes, we want to know where it came from, what was it, and then what is the length of this term? Is it 60,000 for 2 years, 3
Correct.
years, 5 years?
How many years left?
Well, yeah, sure.
2 years left, right?
So she'll give us a new debt schedule that will run out the length of whatever it is, right? The current debt schedule drops to zero in 25,
Yeah, right.
right? And so the question is, does this extend it even further, or actually 26? Does it extend it further, right?
Right, yeah.
And that's, again,
Yep.
the current debt schedule, not with the boat, the dredging that we're talking about. So, based upon that, and with the projected capital that Stephen has, that he's identified, that we've talked about,
Yeah.
the pump out boat, the engineering fees for the dredging, and what was the third one?
Truck.
The truck,
Yeah.
right? We would be pulling out about $200,000 out of retained earnings. Retained earnings currently sit at $672,000, so that obviously would bring it down to $470,000.
Well-
That's based upon projections of revenue and expenses in FY '20, which are pretty conservative. Go ahead, Stephen.
It's 100 for the engineering. Oh, no, it's 80 for the boat is the full amount.
So Nancy, when she does her numbers, she can project, she has to project, this is going back to Craig.
The full amount.
The full 80?
Yeah.
She can project the 25,
Right.
right?
Yeah, so
again,
it's
these
200, but it's really,
125.
yes.
You got 223 is what he, 100 for the debt, 80 for the boat, 43 for the truck. That's,
No, it's not 100 for the engineering because there's already some money there that's that we're already paying for. We're just gonna use it up.
The net is about 125.
The net for the.
Net
for the-
capital.
Net capital for the boat, for the boat and the engineering is 120. And then the truck is in addition to, which is another 43. And then you back out the grant, if and when we resolve.
So right.
Nancy has numbers on it, and I trust, she knows numbers better than anyone in this room. Right.
What was scares me is the bottom number there, 868. You know what I mean? Forgetting where the retained earnings will end up.
Oh, you mean, surplus
This
deficit?
year's, right, this year's,
No, that's next year.
I'm sorry, this year's budgeting season, for next year's
Right.
P&L, we're budgeting to net
Flat. It'll be flat.
flat, which is not acceptable
It's not.
in any business, right? You have to
That is
put
correct.
money, you have to add to your retained, not necessarily lose.
Well, one might argue that the net zero net sum game with enterprise fund, right?
No,
You
yeah,
want to
but
cover all
clearly-
your expenses, right? Each year, you want to be able to, if you're low on your surplus fund, right?
Yeah.
You want to make sure you're adding to that, to
Right.
keep it at a certain level. I think we were told that 600,000 was kind of the target for,
500.
Yeah, we're right at that point.
yeah, we're at that point now, so you don't want to put too much in each year.
No,
You
it's
need to
not-
cover just in
it's
case you
not-
run into extra expenses. right?
No,
I
but
understand it well.
devil's advocate, the flip side is, there's always unforeseen expenses
Right.
that are never gonna be in the capital, like a fire today and last
Smoking
year,
pedestals.
right?
Yeah,
So,
I get it.
those, right, we always have to take into account to be aware of,
Yeah.
and,
What I'm talking about Mike, is budgeting for savings. I know it's a zero-sum game, and, you know, you
Yeah.
target,
Yeah.
and, you know, it's got to end up where you can't be making more money than, you can't be charging more than you need to run the marina,
Yeah.
right? Run the whole harbor master's office.
What I'll challenge you with though, is the more you make and bring in each year, right, the more will get spent. So I'm just trying to say that.
I hear you.
there's-
Very fair.
Right, you gotta be close to
Look at
that,
the expenses.
give Steve what he needs to have to run the business, right? But you don't want to be bumping it up every year and every year and every year to the point where you.
Mike, but the flip side is, if we're taking $200,000 out of retained earnings, and we have 480,
Yeah,
then 3 years from now, we're down to 80, now it's too late to start reacting.
correct, yeah.
Right, so what we want to do is, we want to make sure this is a healthy fund,
Yeah,
right? So, point being, when Nancy gives us the new numbers, my
yeah,
anticipation is it will be before our February meeting. And at that meeting, what I would like to add on the new business side is discussion about slip fees. And mooring fees. And I'm not saying I want to add as a discussion raising them. I want a discussion to do the due diligence to look at this. And this would be something to vote on, obviously. But I would like to have that discussion about FY '20, not FY '19. Because in February, if the bills are going out March 1st, to give it a proper public hearing and due diligence, I think it'd be unfair to the slip holders and mooring to raise fees when on a very conservative projection of revenue and an aggressive projection, not aggressive, but certainly not conservative on expenses, that we're still very healthy on the retained earnings. Right? So, and frankly, I think I'd like to put it to vote that on the new business side, that this discussion should be about fiscal year 20 versus 19.
Well, we're in 19 now,
Yeah, we're 90.
so this is for this year's budget.
I'm sorry.
20.
I'm sorry, fiscal year 19 bills. The bills are going to go out to the stakeholders, the slip holders, on March 1st.
That's what we're discussing.
I think that the discussion of any kind of fee increase should be for
For next year.
20.
But are you saying that
Sorry.
we send a bill out?
March of 20, I'm sorry, confused.
We're talking about letting them know there's going to be an increase when the bill goes out? And then.
Yes, we would post it, it would be part of a public hearing. We would have many months before Ellen would have to send out bills, since I'm talking about 2020, not 2019 marina bills, right? I think the window's too tight to have a public hearing and to give everybody the proper bids. But I'm more than willing to have a vote on this. It shouldn't be my decision exclusively, whether or not, if there are people in this room that want to talk about doing it for 19, then I'd like to hear about it.
Fiscal.
For March of 19 bills. Want to discuss it?
I don't think we should do it. I think we should have the discussions for the 20 bill.
David?
I think the discussion should be on the 20 bill, yes.
Mike?
That's it, same as that.
David?
I mean, I'm not.
You gotta be the contrarian, Dave, come on.
Well, I'm not necessarily contrarian, I hate fees, and I hate taxes, I hate the whole thing, but I know that, and this is separate from 3 years ago when the Harbor Master Office got a $75,000 bump because we started collecting the waterways usage fees for all the moorings. So that was the most recent bump in revenue, and that has been the only bump in revenue in the
That's
last 10 years, 12 years,
Yeah.
something like that. Expenses have certainly.
That was
gone
fiscal
up.
year 16.
Right, so that's
Right.
3 years we've been carrying that, we got a $75,000 bump, that's great, it's awesome. And again, I hate the concept of raising fees, but, you know, when you run a business, you don't change prices for a long time. What happens is, you know, your customer base gets used to it, which is great, but, you know, you start eating away at maintenance and other things that I think we need to be budgeting for. So I don't think it's too late a time period to talk about it, but we're not talking about a 20% increase. You know what I mean? We're talking about a bump of some sort, I would think, to help cover, you know, higher cost of labor, higher cost of insurance, higher cost of fuel, higher cost of a lot of things that we need to run the marina. So yeah, I'm not necessarily advocating for it, but I don't think it's too late. And again, I don't think we have final numbers to talk about it yet.
That's the biggest problem. We don't have the final
And we
numbers.
haven't even talked about the expense side. You know what I mean? Maybe we reduce expenses in some way.
Okay.
We can talk about that.
So, Steve, we would be very open to having that kind of conversation. It's really, some of the expenses are, there's 4 big buckets of expense, 1 big bucket and 3 other large buckets of expenses. Some of those are pretty fixed. You gonna lay people off?
No, I want to talk about the police budget.
You want to talk about the what?
The police
I
budget.
think that Craig already brought up earlier too, should that expense not be on the waterways budget?
Can I ask when Waterways goes to advisory? Does anybody know that?
17th,
Oh,
right, January. Right, Steve?
I believe so, yeah.
I think we should talk about it now and have a vote, so that
Yeah.
advisory knows our fee. If we have to.
You can't add it on to.
No, it's financials.
I suppose, yeah.
We're talking about financials.
So specifically, your concern is,
Now, Waterways is paying the police department to,
we're talking about salaries here, right?
police salaries.
Just salaries, that's what we
Just
talking about.
salaries.
Well, no, I think, I'm sorry, I think it's salaries and the slip also. And the thing I think about is, just to add to your point, is we just determined a year ago that the Parker had reached the end of its usefulness. That police boat is not new. So if we're not going to get ready to also buy the new police boat and engines, you might start thinking now about whose expense that really is, because this is when it's coming.
Well, they own the boat.
February 8th.
What was that?
Is my point?
No, your point's clear, I'm sorry.
My advisory meeting.
Oh, February 8th,
Are you going
for the harbor master advice.
What's your name?
So,
Police.
Elise, thanks. Thank you for being here.
your point, Toby, is there anybody from advisory that can confirm that, please? Well,
Steve sees it on his calendar.
okay.
And I'm sorry, I'm not following, what are you advising, or?
No,
So-
February 8th,
When,
the harbor master presents to advisory.
Okay, I see.
Right?
I can confirm.
Thank you.
No matter. I thought it was the 17th, but perhaps it was.
What's that? Yeah, I thought it was the 17th too.
I can't get into my email.
It says Scituate Advisory Committee agenda notice meeting Thursday, February 8th, 7 p.m. Community Room, Scituate Library.
Okay.
Waterways, shellfish, information, police, public safety, finance.
So Leanne, would you send to all the Waterway members? Just
Yeah.
let us know.
Unless they've changed it.
David, I want to come back to you.
Yes, it's something, yeah.
They could have changed
So
it.
does that
since
have
I-
time for this question? I'm trying to figure out.
No.
No.
No,
So-
okay.
So what you're concerned with is that the existing police boat someday needs to be replaced.
Yes.
Okay, so that's different than what what I believe you're talking about is the 44,000 and change, which is actually
Last year.
well, around the 45, that we pay, rather the Waterways Enterprise Fund is charged for the two police,
Last year, I was
Do we not get any?
I was going to answer that question, I said, I'm not going to embarrass you.
So today we didn't pick that.
So, all right, let's refocus on this one now. The police have three boats,
Oh, okay.
okay? They have the boat that is parked in front of the harbor masters.
All right.
They have an inflatable,
Okay.
and they just purchased a boat from surplus in New York. That third boat was purchased out of the police department budget,
Okay.
correct?
As was the first one.
Okay.
I'm just updating data on the boat.
Thank you, that's good. I was afraid we were setting a precedent that if we're paying.
No, I think we bought the gray boat. Not the New York boat. I think the
Right.
Boston Whaler we bought. You know better though, Howie.
I thought we did too. That's.
I thought we did the first year.
It's the way I see it is over the last
I don't
3
think
years,
so.
there's no money being siphoned out of the Waterways Fund for the benefit of the police department, Marine. The tune right now, it's in $40,000, right now it's probably close to $46,000. And to your point, you probably would consider adding on the slip fee to that. So you could be round numbers, $50,000. We may want to question whether that's appropriate coming out of this Waterways Enterprise Fund.
Yeah, was it something that the selectmen decided on?
Former
Where was
town
it come from?
Town administrator.
Yeah.
Huh?
Town administrator.
Town administrator decides that it's going to come out of our fund versus, sounds like it should come out of the police.
It's
fund.
new money to the police department.
Right, so.
But that's already been decided, we don't have any
No,
control.
we do have control, we have input. Let's make it,
We have input, not control.
not control, but we have input.
Okay,
So back to David's point, we should probably have a
We should
discussion.
talk about it. I don't think anybody except maybe Mike and, Howie, you were on when that happened? You were on that,
I don't know if I was on this commission.
I don't think you were, so nobody in this, on this committee right now was on the committee when that happened. It happened blind to us. Steve had inherited it. You know, we think he has a pretty tight budget. And I don't think it's right that, hey, if you want to spend the $45,000 to have policemen cruise around the harbor and go to the river and all that, then put it in the police budget.
Right.
Just like if you know, if you need more policemen in Minot, you send more policemen to Minot. So that's my strong feeling, that should be taken out of this budget. And I think, I would support a motion and us voting so that before it gets to advisory, when his budget goes in front of advisory, at least there's a Waterways Commission vote saying we disagree with this $45,000, $48,000
Let's vote.
in personal services.
No, it's not as simple as that.
That's my thought.
Make the motion.
I move that the Waterways Commission vote to disagree with the proposed Waterways Harbor Master budget that includes money for the police department, salaries, period.
We just do a line item rather than open up my whole budget to the
Yeah, we
No, they go to one.
Well, he makes a good point. This
Can we just
is
do
line,
a specific line item?
Yeah.
Personal services.
It could be
Seasonal salaries.
police department, marine unit, seasonal, you know.
And it should include the sick.
Police department, marine unit.
To remove, I propose that the Waterways Commission vote to oppose the current line item in the harbor master's budget, that personal services line item that includes the police department seasonal salaries.
And to Craig's question is, can you also add the slip in there? You can't, it's not in line.
No, we can't.
Marine unit, say
So that would be a second motion. Man, could you read that back, because grammatically it sounds
So
inaccurate.
I have, David Jr. made a motion to disagree with the proposed waterways budget that includes the police department marine unit line items
for salaries.
for
For
salaries.
salaries.
Yeah, it would not propose current.
And this advisory committee member that's here will bring it back.
Or just marine unit. Just across the
Yeah.
marine.
Yeah, if it's
Just
that.
marine unit, and that takes care of salaries or any divine goods or
But it,
services.
no, but it is the personal service, it all rolls into your personal
See, from your
service.
experience in other towns, who pays for police boats and police salaries?
Police departments.
Police boats.
But wait, in other towns, the harbor master also works for the police department.
Not all.
Some content, that's how we know.
Yeah.
So,
Not all.
A second,
I'm sorry, you got a second on that? Okay.
Discussion.
Discussion? I think we've already had discussion. Well, it's premature on that.
Does
but-
everybody agree? I mean, I'm thinking.
No, we're going to vote. We're going to vote.
I want discussion.
Oh, so you like discussion?
I want more discussion. I mean, I bring it up because it bothers me that that got thrown on us.
is there anyone that disagrees?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure I'm 100% on either way on it, you know. Yeah.
Well, so where do we put you then?
Abstain?
You would vote no.
Vote no. When it's time to vote.
What is time vote? So what would your concerns be?
Well, the services they're providing is strictly to the waterways and to the beaches and, you know, to the harbor and the waterways. And Chief Stewart came in and told us why they felt they needed to have law enforcement on the water to enforce some of those rules and regulations that the harbor master department doesn't really have the authority to enforce, right? So,
We actually do.
Well,
I'm just going to rest what he said.
You don't, if there's a problem down at the spit,
That's
right?
not on the water.
Right.
Well, if it starts on the water, right, so people are anchored, and some people are on a boat,
Then it's on the water.
and they're on the boat, and a fight develops in between, now it's land and water. And that has occurred on the spit.
If they're,
If somebody's on a boat and they have a gun, then you are not supposed to be going out there to engage that person, correct?
Well,
I was gonna call the police.
Right, so that's supporting the waterways though, that's what he's saying.
So that's why I'm saying I'm torn on it, because I think
No,
the
point
Chief
out
had
that
he had a good amount of points that he made about why they need a level of actual law enforcement on the water. He mentioned the issue they have with the edge of Cohasset Harbor, it's really Scituate Waters, and if someone gets arrested that's there and they're on the edge of it, they're actually out of our county, or different county.
That's a
They have the ability to.
That's a county, you know, two different county issues, and I get that.
Right, yeah.
May I add a point? I think what, David, you can fill me in, please. We're not debating whether or not the boat is needed, whether or not they bring a value.
Well, the all-
Except, let me finish. The question I think David brought up is it shouldn't be in our budget, it should be on the police budget in a public way where it can be seen.
And what Mike is saying is that the police boat and the people that are using it are supporting the waterways.
That's what I'm saying. So that's
No,
what
I'm not questioning that. What I'm saying is that it should be in a public area where, as a police line item that can be voted, the town would see. By burying it within another 100 things that we do, who knows about it? Who knows where that money is being spent? I just think it belongs in another piggy bank. I don't question the value it brings.
Okay.
I just say that it doesn't belong in ours, that's all.
All right,
You bring up a really good point when who controls it. We're passing this money to them, and we have no control.
Zero say.
And it seems to me that if.
Zero coordination.
If this is important, okay, they have an ad or two ads to staff, well then the harbor master has to denigrate and have two less positions. You can't have it both ways. We just can't add the staff.
Yeah, because before they got that police boat, you would take them out to the state. You'd ferry them out.
Yeah.
It's because if there was somebody with a gun out there, you wouldn't be involved, you just get them there.
Well, involved only because you drive the boat.
We have to focus on the nature of this enterprise fund and the fact that we're really lucky to have it. It's not part of the general fund. And what are the purposes of the Waterways Enterprise Fund to the benefit of the people who contribute to it? You know, it wasn't established to build schools, to pave roads, and those types of things. It was specifically for the betterment of the waterways and the people that contribute to it. So if we have this money being siphoned off for another purpose, which we have no control over, we should be concerned, I think, about that.
Sure.
We may want to preclude that. I would agree, I think it should be a police department
So-
expense.
Are we happy with the discussion?
I'd like to read the, can you read it again, please, plan?
Your vote,
My
your motion?
motion.
David Friedman made a motion to disagree with the proposed waterways budget that includes the police department marine unit line item 4 salaries. Good?
For seasonal salary.
For seasonal salaries?
Salaries.
Salary.
Salaries are fine.
Okay.
Should we say the amount, 45, do we know? It's buried somewhere, we don't know the exact.
No,
amount.
yeah,
We know the amount.
it's 44,000 and change.
Let's say that number, $44,000. Approximately $44,000.
What is the number?
It's on your other piece of water papers I gave you. No. No.
It is approximately
46, 45,000.
Say 45 then.
No. It's the one where he's got all those salaries. Please, excuse me. 45,090. That's projected 20.
Any discussion?
Any discussion?
Plus the slip, if you really want to.
No.
Let's keep this straight.
Right. This is the fixed cost that's there, the others.
That's what's going with advisory, so
Right.
they're the only comment on that piece.
Okay, so we have a motion, poll vote.
Second.
No, I'm good.
Craig?
All in favor?
Well, no, you have to say yes or no.
All in
Yes.
favor?
Yes.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
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 Yes. 6 to 1.
I believe in votes like this, they need to be identified by the people. I know if we're voting for chairman, voting for vice chairman has to be identified by how people vote.
I have another motion.
Leanne, you ready?
So I have to say that Mike voted no, is that what?
Yes. Okay.
For discussion, should we send since we're an advisory board to the selectmen, a note to the selectmen that since nobody's here from the selectmen's office, that we did take that vote? So I'm not sure when they vote on this budget. Just so they know.
So you wanted to make a motion to send a letter to the select
Or at
board?
least maybe we should notify the selectmen. If we have to make a
You're
motion.
advising, so.
If we're an
Make a
advisory.
motion.
Right. So I make a motion that the advisory commission, the
No.
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 The water.
Waterways Commission notifies the selectmen that we just took that vote in opposition to the
How about this?
seasonal salary budget. of-
Leanne, the motion is that the Waterways Commission would like to advise the Board of Selectmen of our notice of a vote to the advisory committee regarding seasonal police salaries being deducted from the Waterways Enterprise Fund.
You should send them. So in writing, you should.
First, taking a vote.
That's my motion. Sorry.
Okay. Make a motion, vote.
Second.
Second. Craig?
Yes.
Yes.
Dave, yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Unanimous. Can I get a volunteer to write this memo? Thank you. You know, I'm right to you.
Thanks for
Dave Friedman will be
I'm happy to do it.
Okay?
This may be a stupid question,
questions?
There's no fire
No.
salaries fee.
That's correct.
Huh?
There we go.
There is
Well, you know, you never know.
No, there's not.
I'm just asking.
No, there is not.
No.
We do pay for a reservationist for the Maritime Center, but we've talked to the
Powers that be.
powers that be who said they will correct that in the budget for next year.
Okay,
Yeah, you got it.
This year or next year?
20.
Can I add, we, something to talk about, about anything?
No, no.
Yes, financial, you can talk, let him talk. You hardly talk.
It's kind of,
Is it related to financials?
it's kind of related to financials.
Like everything, all right.
I just wanted to ask how they used to rent the Maritime Center
Oh.
and how that was handled with it. Was it always done through town hall?
No.
You know, I know that there's departments that use it all the time and block it out, so that was my question.
Well, the Maritime Center was really a great public process where everyone really contributed to build it. And what happened is after we built it, we actually established the Scituate Maritime Center Foundation. And it's a nonprofit organization, the purpose of which was to run the Maritime Center, to be in charge of the bookings, the cleanings, making the reservations and those types of things, and making sure it ran smoothly. Any additional money that we were able to get out of rentals, we donated back to the building for improvements.
So it'll be driven back into the,
Right. So it was a net zero sum game.
you know, what happens if you ran a deficit?
We didn't run it.
What happens to the foundation?
If something, like a door fell off, and you did, you know, you just fixed it, and, okay.
So the Waterways Fund pays for the facility, but
No, right now, there's no longer, so that was under the foundation. 3 or 4 years into it, it was a lot of work. We had 170 bookings the first year. The town administrator at the time was concerned about expenses, and it was getting more and more difficult to run. So we gifted the building back to the town and said, you know, here, you can do all the things that we're doing
yeah,
and keep it up to speed and so on and so forth. So that's kind of the way.
which is fine, but they still continue to keep the debt service on the Waterway Enterprise Fund.
There's no debt service for the building.
For the marina?
It's paid for?
For the purchase,
Yeah.
for the purchase of the marinas.
Do you feel different about
Building.
The property or?
The whole property.
Well, when I talked to Nancy and met with her, and she explained to me the debt service and the breakdown of it, which I don't think I have with me tonight. A lot of it was for the, as she explained, the Maritime Center, it was roughly,
I think to her, Maritime Center and the Marine Park are kind of one and the same.
okay.
I think you have to take back the building. The building was absolutely paid for by donations and contributions by the people.
But not the property, it's not
Not-
the property.
No, the property doesn't belong to the town.
So that was the biggest piece, as I recall, of our debt service, was what I was told was the building itself.
I don't know.
Maybe the repair building.
I don't know.
No, that paid for by
That's
the Boatworks.
Boatworks paid for that building.
He was paid, he built that whole
It
thing.
was like $4 million we borrowed to buy the
Separate
facility.
facility, that's the building.
And that was
Is
the,
that the?
that was the big number that was roughly off the top of my head, 240,000 a year that drops off. And
That's what we build out the entire build
That's the
out.
land acquisition.
Yeah.
Our land
The
itself.
build out of the
Marina?
marina
Okay.
facility and the
The
property.
question
Yeah.
is, which one of these do we can find out from Nancy?
Yeah, Marina Park facility.
So Steve, what's your question? So how is it?
How was handled, how the,
25.
you know, the bookings, that's why it was.
You don't want to, you don't want that.
No, that was why, you know, is it being done as well now as it was then? You know, are we missing the boat? Are we doing a better job than it was done before? You know, where are we losing?
Okay.
Well, that's a good question.
That's my question.
That's a good question, but the good news is the Waterways Enterprise Fund isn't receiving any revenue for that.
Is not receiving.
Right, nor are we experiencing any of the expense.
To maintain his own.
Well, I send my staff over, writing, you know,
Yeah,
no, I'm just,
I hear you, and I would think that should come under the facilities manager. The town's going to
But it's not, I'm going over it on.
That would be terrible.
How are you, I was saying, I don't make any money on this, and I'm looking at it.
Like the front, no, the side door I replaced,
No.
you know, the shingles off, I
So we
replaced
just
it.
make a call.
I send my staff over there, taking care of flower beds and, you know, all the stuff around the facility and picking things up. So I'm asking, and you're saying we don't get any of the money?
For what?
Renting out the.
We get none of the revenue from the maritime side.
And why is the waterways maintained?
Good question. Stop.
I can't just stop, I get my marching orders. I am a soldier.
So we had two separate conversations going on.
I would
When you
ask-
say maintaining it, you mean the trash and things like that? You don't mean utilities and everything else, do you?
I pay the utilities.
Part of the docks?
What?
Is it all metered on one?
No, we're talking about the building. The building piece.
The question is on 1 meter.
Yeah, there's 1 meter for the building and the docks, but the air conditioning runs all summer in that building. And the lights are on, and the doors are open, and the
And who
AC
pays the
is
bill?
cranking, and I paid the bill. The front, the side door rotted away, and I believe I paid for that to be replaced, and
So for my
Well, this is exactly what we're here tonight,
Right.
discussing this.
well, that's why I said, in a roundabout way, it does have to do with financials.
What we found out, I was under the impression until we started looking at these financials back in December, that the revenue was coming in for the enterprise fund, and the expense was going out of the enterprise fund. What we found out is that's not the case anymore, the decision was made to, to collect the revenue, but leave the areas that are holding some of the expense. So much like some of these other things we're seeing, like the police department, we should be saying, wait a minute, if we don't have the revenue, we're not going to incur the expense. Let it be part of the building facilities plan in the town, and they now have to carry it. There was not one penny of public money put into the Maritime Center. It was all volunteers, including digging trenches to bring utilities in from poles and hooking up. We got the benefit of a sewer pump, a grinder pump. That's it, we had to install it and get it over to the pump facility. Every bit of that project was done with volunteers through people raising their own money. There's no-
fantastic story.
I mean, I think I'm gonna be paying for the lock system.
Well, that makes no, yeah, we were probably a lot.
So, wait. So, first of all, how much is the lock system?
The computer lock system, I think, is gonna be, it's not a schlag that they're going down to Home Depot and picking up. This is like something they have at Marriott. It's
So-
like a key card.
Are there benefits to the waterways for a 7x24 bathroom?
Yeah, but we got easily, very easily for the waterways, people just give them the schlag lock with the 4-digit code.
So why are they putting in something that's, so first of all, can you find out, since you're closer to the facilities folks than we are, what the cost is for this new lock?
I'll ask.
Thank you, because the last time I heard it was not a lot of money for something that you could use with an iPhone. So what Mike Larusso put in, down in.
Which could be what they're looking at.
They were telling me it was $1,500.
They were talking about key cards and code, you know, like card systems like you'd have at a
How many
hotel.
cards are we gonna have printed up? 300?
It's the cost of the system, I think.
No, I know that.
You know, to know who's
So
coming.
everybody will have a card and who has a vote.
Yeah.
Howard, when it was all volunteer money that built this thing, there must have been some discussions of who's going to maintain it for the next 10 years.
That's why we created the Scituate Maritime Center Foundation,
And that-
503C
Okay, but that
nonprofit.
got abolished, right?
The foundation still exists, but due to pressures from town hall on running the building, we gifted the building back to the town.
So was there any money in that fund left?
Well, every year, there's probably, if it rents out for 200 nights,
Right.
you have over $100,000 in revenue.
Sure.
Well over $100,000.
So some of that should be used for maintenance.
Some of
Should be used for maintenance.
Yes, it's no longer in our control.
Right.
I mean, that's a common sense thing, yes, but the town has to.
Yeah, we're definitely paying for the line, right? We're paying 200 and some odd thousand a year, and then arguably maybe something for the facilities, right? It's fair to have it clarified, right?
Yep.
Actually, better definition of kind of what each line item is there, right? Obviously, that's the land, the last one.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're paying $205,000 a year for debt service until 2024. Net originated in 2011. I'm sorry, 2005, and it was redone in 2016.
Yeah,
So that's 8, 11, and 16 are the three.
I don't think that means the building, I think it means the property that the.
David, bond.
The whole marine park, the whole area.
Doesn't mean the building.
Correct, I'm saying that 200 there is for the land acquisition specifically, it says.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
When
So I'm saying we're paying
It is January.
right.
No, he's looking at last year's.
I looked at last year's. 18, 19, it's still so close.
You want to do something between the marina and the shared revenue out of the Scituate Waterways.
Right.
Right.
I was talking about the facility itself.
The actual facility, correct.
It is.
Yeah.
And I believe it's,
We've got 3 lines. We have
I believe there-
Park facility, Marine Park recreational facility, which to me sounds like it's probably the rec center itself, right? And then land acquisition is the third item.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
You're bringing up a good point. I think what I need to do is sit down with Nancy and figure out why she's categorized it that way. Because I understand it one way from the get-go and how they're doing it.
Right, yeah.
all right.
Yes, we are paying part of the bond, which was part of the original acquisition of the property, plus the build-out, raising the property for fee. The build-out we did to the travel lift deck, and all those things, dredging and so.
So do you recall roughly how much that was back then, the build-up of the property?
Oh, yeah.
5 million.
Okay.
4.1 for the acquisition
Yeah.
of the whole marina, the whole bit. And it's got to be $1 million, probably less, but to do the whole marina dredging.
I thought the land itself was done in community preservation.
No. The only community preservation money there was for the walkway, the park features on the north end of the property.
Okay.
And that amounts to, that amounts to about $80,000.
Okay.
No, they couldn't use any money from that.
So just to notice, we have a hard stop in this room at 8:45. Love this room.
While you're on financials, can I just ask one quick question?
Sure, Phyllis.
It was my understanding that the $125 user fee that the mooring people were getting was supposed to be going into a fund for future dredging.
It is, it goes into the waterways.
It goes into the Waterways Enterprise Fund.
So is there, it doesn't sound like that there's any kitty being put aside for future dredging.
Goes into the one pot Waterways Enterprise Fund, which is for, that's one of the things it's for, is for dredging.
Right, so
It
for
wasn't just
example,
for dredging. It was,
No, I realize
It was
that.
one of
but-
the justifications. It wasn't entirely.
But it's not necessarily, so there's no kitty being put aside on a yearly basis to, for.
that's the retained
future
earnings.
dredging.
So for example, on the South River dredging, a certain portion of it came from the seaport,
Yeah.
certain half came from Marshfield, the remainder came out of our.
like 270,000 came out of Scituate.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
but some of that will be debt service, a
Yeah.
bond, but other of it came, the remainder of it came out of retained earnings. So when the debt service starts rolling for retained earnings, then theoretically the user fees are offsetting that.
Okay, I was thinking that there was a little piece set aside every year, but that's why I'm asking, because it didn't sound like you were doing it.
So it's publicly available in town documents, it's a separate line item of user fees, and it's about $160,000, $150,000 a year.
And that's all the slip
Correct.
holders and the mooring holders.
That's correct. Okay, so financials. We're going to move over for right now.
Can I stop you before you move on?
Yes, you can.
Just a couple of
I was
things.
hoping somebody would.
Things for clarification before we meet again, because we're going to meet again the next time, we should have an idea of what.
What the new items are?
Yeah, so if we're talking about revenue and increases, what I'd like to see before the meeting is if we do this for the marina slip fees, what does that equate to in dollars in revenue, right? And if we do this,
Length of boats, right?
right, if we know roughly the length of it, you have to use some funny math to get to it.
Well, I think we could just use the slip, you could look at what we bring in for slip fees.
Yeah.
We do have it pretty much broken out now.
Yep,
Where before, they were kind of all over the place.
sure.
And you could take that number divided by, and just use the resident rate,
Yep.
because there's very few non-resident payers.
Right.
You know, everybody somehow is a resident. So I would just use the dollars divided by.
So we use-
Yeah, I'm just asking before we
And
go to the
then-
meeting next
and-
time, if we can have some sort of,
Then you add your, whatever
Yes,
the increase is.
I can do that.
and then for the slip as well, so we have some points of data that if we said if we increased a mooring fee by a buck, what does that equate to in revenue? If we-
I can do that too. So there'd be two line items. The first line item would be for each $10 increase. Using the assumption of a 25 foot and there's 350 boats, that's $87,500 per $10 increase. I'll put that
Say
on
about
that
7,000 linear feet.
Okay?
Yeah,
Then I'll use the same math, 25 footer, right? If it goes up per dollar on a mooring, because we really can't increase moorings more than $1 or $2, because we need to take a look at the surrounding towns,
yeah.
right? For each dollar, it's $25 times 600, Steve, 650 moorings? Steve, 650 moorings?
About 600, 650 right?
So it's whatever 650 times $25 would be.
Yeah,
Rough math, 15,000.
yeah, I'm just saying, so if we have that information available for the next meeting, we're gonna have revenue discussions, we should have an idea what the buckets look like.
That's there.
Yeah.
So the idea would be at the next meeting is to have revenue projections at an assumed rate,
Yeah,
adding, then overlaying it, adding in the cost, the revenue at $10
yeah,
at a future date, right?
yeah.
And then the true debt service numbers that show the expenses.
Yeah, the exact true debt service numbers and where it kind of expires.
Right. On the new ones.
With as much of what we know as we think is going to be approved.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this would be added to the retained earnings. I have a question where, there's retained earnings and then the enterprise fund. What's left over in the retained earnings? goes to
Retained
the enterprise-
earnings
goes to the enterprise fund?
retained earning is part of the Waterways Enterprise Fund.
It is,
Yes,
is it one and the same?
yes.
Okay.
Return earnings is really
The enterprise
after.
fund.
Yep. So at the end of each year, hopefully some goes into retained earnings, whatever's left over that hasn't been spent goes into retained earnings. And the town tries to keep 600,000.
600,000. Right now we're at 400 and we're going to use up 200.
No, right now we're at 672.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
The bottom line is, over the last 10 years, the average was between $500,000 and $600,000 a year in retained earnings. We're not at the point, it seems to me, that we have a fire drill going on here for fees, because we get grants on top of this, and that's why some of these numbers are inflated. We get grants to offset. And we haven't said that tonight. Over the last 10 years, we've been extremely fortunate in receiving a number of grants. And I don't know what the number is, but I know for the Maritime Center alone, it's close to $1 million. That's what's helping us keep these numbers where they are, is the offsets we're getting. So for this pump-out boat, we have proposed $80,000, but we know in reality, although it's not guaranteed, we're going to get 50 of it.
56, 250.
So, we don't need to lose too much sleep over that, because the state wants to fund that, the federal government wants to keep funding that provision. That's true of some of the other things, like dredging the river, where we get $500,000. That's pretty good, that didn't hurt us.
Right.
So we're able to make this fund work and contribute to put money into it. Yeah, okay, look what we found tonight, we have money going up to the police department. Why? Who knows? We don't get the revenues anymore for the Maritime Center. Why? Nobody knows why that was changed. So what we need to do is what we're doing, is get our arms around this, so we can understand what the financials look like, so we can make an informed decision as to what we need to do with these. If we have to raise them, we have to raise them. it seems like with a $500,000 or $600,000 surplus, we're not doing too bad. Somehow we're making this go. We've already talked tonight about another 50, that we might be able to pick up. There might be other areas. The Scituate Waterways, we haven't reviewed the lease in 10 years.
Well,
So there's other.
so we do have a hard stop.
Yes, sir.
But just on a quick thing, we couldn't review the lease for 10 years.
Got it.
Right, but you're right.
So mooring fees, slip fees, dinghy fees. All to be discussed.
So correct.
Maybe you could recap what is the new business for next meeting?
Let's find out from Leanne what you had so far.
For the,
New
the next
business?
meeting. All right, so I have discussion of slip fees and mooring fees.
Okay, would you add dinghy into that?
Changing the date of invoices.
Yep.
And then you are going to do the revenue projections.
Yep.
It for agenda items, but there's other outstanding items.
That's okay. No, that's it.
Okay.
Dave, do you think we missed something?
No, I was going to ask if at the next meeting, if there's time, we could discuss the ramp on the Driftway. And I'd like to at least have a discussion about ways we could possibly improve this for the
Sure.
general public.
Right.
That was one of my capital items.
Okay.
Bring the ramp,
Driftway.
So in the interest of
The handle.
not getting, so in the interest of not getting thrown out by librarians, I'm sure many of us have been thrown out by bartenders, but it would certainly be a first. So a quick hit on the MOUs. This is on the old business. We have two MOUs being tracked right now, one with Marshfield. We're waiting for a date.
Yes.
To meet with Marshfield. There is not a date yet established. It's at the TA level. And between the holidays and them being off, my plan was to circle back up with Jim Boudreau on Monday and say, where are we on this thing? Oh,
The plan B was also to attend one of the waterways meetings, right?
correct. They actually,
The last one was in Marshfield.
Then we'll
do this one. I know.
but hold on,
We all went
hold on a
down.
minute. Hold on a minute. Marshfield actually voted at their November meeting to send a representative to one of our meetings. So my plan was to reach out and find out if that's the case, so they can come to one of ours, and we can have a conversation that way. If not, then maybe, since it's always the same night, whether we move the night, we can't arrange to have a joint meeting, we can always move the night, and some people can go to theirs.
Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
one of the important.
So let's find out, and I'll take that again as a new business item. I'll find out from Marshfield if they're sending somebody in stealthily, or if they can give me the date. Then, on new business, Craig, congratulations.
Thank you.
Who's
Sorry I
over?
couldn't make the last meeting.
What?
Sorry I couldn't make.
No, that's all right. He's now the waterways representative onto the Shellfish. Do you guys have a meeting set yet?
No.
Could you keep us appraised of it?
Yes.
Good.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks.
So you guys haven't met yet?
No, I haven't had anybody try to contact me.
Would you reach out to Lorraine, because she sent an email saying I think there are 3 committees that are appointing a person. I gave your name, obviously.
Right.
The other 2 committees have to provide it, at which point theoretically you all should be in communication about when works for me.
Yeah, because, I have not seen anything
Okay.
from them.
And one other thing, the Commonwealth of Marine Division of Marine Fisheries, you know this one well, sent in to the Board of Selectmen notice about closing of certain waters for shellfishing. So the good news is you don't have to have any meetings because the water's closed. No. There was a lot of confusion about where the water was because they gave terms like MB 10.1 and 10.2.
Cohasset Harbor.
In Cohasset Harbor, but it appears, and this is probably the better one, if you want to pass this around.
Why'd they close them?
Contamination. That way. So they sent it in to the Board of Selectmen notifying them. Craig, if you'd like, you want this, or actually, if you can make copies, bring it back next time? Yeah. So there you go. I don't want the board to get off on the wrong foot to think that the area's been closed, because it hasn't. We did the due diligence with Steve, and it's open, okay? It's still available.
So what was the left saying then?
Inner Harbor was
It
closed.
basically said Cohasset Harbor is closed to shop fishing. And then you read further into it, said area, the new area 10.001, it's this area that's on the north side, Howard?
The north, yeah, north
Yeah.
side. That's real shallow.
Yeah.
Okay?
What's Cohasset HC?
So, if you make copies for your members and give it out, and then return one to us, that'd be great. And then, besides the Marshfield MOU, Howie and I met with the Cohasset, what is there? It's not Harbor Commission. Harbor Commission. We're in the early stages of an MOU with them as well, because there may be some joint activity required for a potential grant in the future to help support the aquaculture in terms of either ramps or something like that in Cohasset. So that's also in process. Last item is remote call-ins. Since we're entering the winter and some people do go away for extended periods of time and leave the rest of us back in the cold. The town,
They just come back.
they should come back. They were really.
I'll send an Uber to the William to pick them up.
The town has approved and adopted a call-in process, so should a member be away, they can call in, and I believe, Leanne, you have it as well, the remote call-in process that Lorraine sent to us.
Yeah, 48 hours notice in writing to the chairperson.
So if you have that hard copy, could you just read it to us?
I can get it.
Great. So that explains how it goes about. So you gotta go lock yourself in a double secret cone of silence closet.
What is it, really? Is it a phone sitting on the table?
And I'll light up my cell phone and we'll, so it should be, and it's my understanding, my understanding was clarified that they can vote remotely. So should there be a vote that's tight, then it's great that Howie can dial in from Vero Beach in the shorts and vote with us.
Too much information.
So,
Who has the action to forward the advisory committee notice on the 8th? Is it certain times at night? The 8th is Friday, I know.
The 8th was
Leanne is
wrong.
The year was wrong, I was looking at 2018.
Is it-
Sorry.
All right.
I gave it, David.
Leanne's going to send out to the committee when
I had 2018.
the harbor master is presenting his budget to
I can't find it. I don't think they said.
advisory group.
I haven't sent it out
I
yet.
don't think they.
I haven't
Okay.
seen it.
Guys, what is it?
I haven't sent it out
Look at
yet.
how.
That's why I haven't seen it.
You're not.
Okay, so with that, before I adjourn, any questions from the floor? Ms. Russo, are you good? Thank you for your attendance, we appreciate it very much. Everyone else, then I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Thanks everyone for coming.
All approved?